G'day, welcome back to another video. So about 2 years ago, I sat here and I rambled on a bit about how I was putting a 1JZ into my diesel Cresta, and although the videos are pretty horrible and I filmed them with my camera up the wrong way, a lot of people have reached out and said that they've found them very helpful, which is what I had hoped. And yeah, some people have also sort of had some other questions, and I just thought that I'd try and summarize it all. And so basically the most common question is, how much did it cost? So I spent $23,000 Australian on the whole conversion. So engine, everything required. Now, I did a few little upgrades that weren't necessarily necessary. So I did things like Evo Brembo front brakes. I did a digital dash from an NA Jzx. What else did I do? Oh, I had the gearbox fitted with Marlin crawler parts just to make it a bit stronger, and arguably you could say that an older box in good condition fitted with Marlin crawler parts is arguably stronger than buying a brand new box from Toyota. And the reason for that is by way of the parts that you use, the Marlin crawler, thrust washer and bearing retainer plate. If you've ever seen an R154 that somebody's pulled apart and the bearing retainer plate's bowed out, I mean, that it's not very strong. And yeah, so those are just some little things. So 23K, and then my car, so cars have gone up in price. I bought mine for $3,000 with some work wheels and some basic coilovers. But now, or at that time, they were probably worth about 7 or 8. I'd since had my car painted. Not that, you know, that adds a whole bunch of value, but it's something to sort of keep in mind. So, you know, the other question is, are you better off starting with a stock Jzx90 rather than getting a diesel and trying to build it yourself? So a stock Jzx90, probably around 23-ish, but I mean, they're starting to get up there. So for you'd say a stock one's maybe 23 to 25 Australian dollars, which is about 16,000 US dollars, something like that, 16 to 18. But then you've got to sort of factor in, so if you take your $23,000 stock Jzx and you add a standalone ECU plus sensors, that's about $2,000. You'd need a tune, and if you wanted to go, say, single turbo manifold, wastegate, turbo, dump, and exhaust, I've written down 10.5. But just going through that in my head just then, there's at least $500 worth of fittings, you know, that you would need to plumb up the turbo, if not more. There's, you know, A-end fittings, there's braided hose and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, arguably, and this is what I did when I was building my car, is I wrote everything down that I could think of, and I over budgeted. But then, say I took this 10.5, I would budget 12.5, because there's surely stuff that you're going to forget. And for example, your exhaust, you might need the car towing to the exhaust shop to get the exhaust made and then towing home. So the most important thing is to plan. And the way I did it is I just had an A4 piece of paper. Like, I've got my bits of scruffy paper here. This is my WRX I'm doing. And I'd write everything down that I'm sort of concentrating on now. But as I, because I was learning about it when I was doing it. I didn't know, I've got a better idea now, but I mean, now that I'm working on the WRX, it's a different platform. So there's different things that I've got to account for. And as I learned how different sections worked, I would update my list, and I'd work away, and I'd cross things off as I'd complete it. And yeah, that's how I did my car, and that's how I do it now. Because essentially, like, so I'm working on I've got a 97 GC8 with an STI engine, gonna do a link ECU and bits and pieces, but I haven't run out of money, but I may come into some money soon, and therefore if I buy parts now, because I can't really afford, I can only afford sort of to complete the job. I can't really do all the cool stuff that I did for the JZX, where I did the Brembo brakes, or I got the gearbox upgraded, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just holding off on that. But one of the biggest things is don't commit to trying to build a car if your mental health isn't very good, because it is very straining. You could potentially run into some setbacks. I know my friend Wombat, and poor guy, he built his engine, and I think he had to pull his engine out several times. It went on the dyno. I mean, he took his car to the Gold Coast for the dyno, I think 4 to 6 times, and it broke down, and he bent valves, and he didn't have things assembled properly, and all sorts of stuff. He ended up having to fix a whole bunch of stuff, and he says, I just want my car finished. And I said, look, you just don't rush it, because take your time, and you'll finally get it sorted. He's finally got it sorted. He's got it on the road, and it's pretty awesome, and he's pretty happy with it. But that sort of leads me to one of the other things is, when you finished your car, you'll still have things you're going to have to iron out. So I'm trying to think what I had with mine. There's always stuff, like I had, fuel leaks, and what else did I have? I don't know, I can't remember right now, but you're always going to have shit you're going to have to figure out. So, lastly, I guess I'll go through what I'm going to do with the Cresta now. So after having owned it now for 2 years, a year and a half, I need to redo the clutch. No idea why, but it's slipping. There's 2 bolts that hold the clutch fork in that snapped. My gearbox got pulled out. We looked at the clutch, it looked fine. We put the gearbox back in, clutch started slipping. I should have had it inspected while I had it out on the floor. It's nobody's fault. So, gearbox has to come back out, and got to get the clutch rebuilt. So, what else? My brake. So my brake rotors, I only bought, well, they're very so they're fairly basic rotors, but I was also using fairly aggressive, because the brakes come out of a rally car, so the brake pads were really aggressive, and basically I didn't have the right rotors for the right brake pads, or the right brake pads for those rotors, essentially, for driving on the street. And so therefore I've just killed my front brake rotors. So I've got to replace those, and I think I've got to do the tie rod ends. One of those is busted. Now that's just street driving. I don't drift the car. I only just a month or two ago fixed up the handbrake enough so that, like, I've actually got a handbrake, so I can, you know, go take it for some beginner nights at the drift track. So yeah, future plans. Now, what I've got is, well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. So, and I gotta go talk to somebody about this, but I'm gonna do cams. I want to do Jun 256, 264. They have a very high lift of, I think, 9.5 or 9.35 millimeters. Now, being a smaller duration, so 256, 264, the greater the duration, the more it moves your peak power up, or your power band rather, up the rev range. So normally if you had power between, say, 4.5 and 6 grand, you might have more power, but it might be between 5 and 6.8 or something like that, is what I'm led to believe. So to complement the cams, because of the higher lift, they need stiffer springs. I can get stiffer springs that will still work with the factory retainer, and the reason why I want to keep the factory retainer, partly due to cost, but partly because they're designed to last a long time. Lightweight titanium stuff, it's high performance and it is designed to last, but the factory stuff does hundreds of thousands of kilometers. So I mean, I got to talk to somebody about that, so, you know, don't necessarily take my word for it. And then the other thing was, I thought about going solid lifters as well, because if I do potentially increase the rev range, so I think factory rev limit's 7.2, I might be able to go a little bit more, and with solid lifters, that would help. So that's kind of, I was about to say stage one, but that's kind of the first stage of the modifications that I've sort of planned. Then the next stage is to do a drive-by-wire throttle body, a drive-by-wire pedal. There is in fact a pedal that bolts straight in to JZX. It's from a Lexus. Now, with that, I've already got the throttle body. I'll need to either make an adapter or weld up my manifold, drill and tap it. But then along with that, there's a significantly greater cost. So the wiring, and then also a ECU tune. So the reason why I thought about doing the drive-by-wire stuff was, I'm already going to need to have an ECU, have the car tuned for the cams. The other thing was that I was going to do E85, and therefore I would need injectors. So that leads me into this, which, so is a genuine Sard fuel rail. It's got twin entries, and then your exit's out the middle. So I just picked that up. I'm really into these old school, well, not necessarily old school, but like cool old bits of Japanese kit like this. You know, I haven't brought myself to pay $300 for a Agretti oil cap yet, but we're getting there. And also I got these Agretti cam gears. Now, I thought, I'll give you a close up. So I thought these had been discontinued. I couldn't find them anywhere. Turns out they still have them. They're for 2JZ, which they're exactly the same thing. And the best part about them is they have the word sprocket misspelled. It doesn't have a C in it. It's just SPROKET. So, yeah, some old school Japanese bits and pieces. I mean, I could do Kelford cams. Wombat actually gave me a damaged set of his. He had some 272, 278s. I've actually got an NA engine that I might put those in and either keep it NA or NA turbo, or I do even have some turbo pistons, but that's a little bit down the track. But yeah, Jun cams, Japanese, keep it sort of Japanese. It's a shame they don't do like a HKS V-cam type thing for a for an old non-VVTi engine. That'd be awesome. I mean, I was trying to sort of think, well, how could you, it's not impossible. You could in fact make a VVTi type cam gear for the intake cam somehow. But yeah, I'm not that much of an engineer, but that'd be something cool. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and informative. One thing I've discovered after making a few more videos after the JZX ones is I hate editing, and I'm not very good at it, and I'm not particularly interested in how to get better, but maybe I should, I don't know. But yeah, thank you. Leave us a like, leave us a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to help. Thanks.